For 20 years, the galaxy forgot about Ethan Voss. The child prodigy who once shook the foundations of the Galactic Academy had vanished, his name whispered only in the halls of the most daring scholars. Some believed he had given up, fading into obscurity after his expulsion. Others thought he had perished in some forgotten corner of the universe, lost to the cold emptiness of space. But there were rumors, quiet, uncertain whispers that spoke of something far more unsettling. In the darkest corners of the galactic network, encrypted transmissions carried fragments of impossible discoveries, technological breakthroughs that defied explanation. Strange, human-made inventions surfaced in black markets, weapons that rivaled the power of the most advanced alien empires. Yet no one knew where they came from. No one could trace them back to a source. And so, the mystery of Ethan Voss remained unsolved. But while the galaxy moved forward, war was brewing. The Void Tyrant, an unknown warlord from the farthest reaches of space, had risen with terrifying force. His fleet, built with technology beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered, tore through entire star systems. His soldiers, enhanced by an unknown science, moved with precision and strength that defied all known limits. The Academy's greatest minds struggled to understand how he had grown so powerful so quickly. The Council's best strategists failed to stop his relentless advance. It was as if he already knew everything about their defenses before they could react, as if he had been studying them for years. World after world fell. Panic spread like wildfire. And just when the galaxy began to lose all hope, a single message appeared on the encrypted channels of the Galactic Council: Ethan Voss is returning. At first, many dismissed it as a hoax. Surely, it couldn't be him. The boy who had once been a student, then in exile, was nothing more than a forgotten relic of the past. But when a lone ship, unlike any seen before, appeared in the skies above the Academy, silence fell across the galaxy. It was sleek, almost organic in its design, moving with impossible agility through the void. And when the transmission came through, there was no doubt left Ethan had returned. But he was no longer the boy they had once cast aside. He was something else now. Something far greater. The moment he stepped foot on the Academy grounds, the tension in the air was undeniable. The very same professors who had expelled him now stood before him, unsure whether to bow in respect or cower in fear. He did not waste time on pleasantries. His voice was calm, his words precise, carrying the weight of absolute certainty. He had not returned to seek revenge, nor to prove his worth. He had returned because he was the only one who could stop the war. The Void Tyrant's power, he explained, was not a mystery to him. It was stolen knowledge, taken from the very Academy that had once feared his potential. The enemy was not just a warlord, he was a scavenger of ideas, a parasite feeding on the brilliance of others. And the only way to defeat him was to fight with something beyond the Academy's understanding. Something only Ethan could create. The Council hesitated. Could they really place their trust in the very person they had abandoned all those years ago? But then they looked around, at the destruction creeping closer with each passing day, at the desperate faces of those who had once believed in the Academy's strength. They had no choice. And so, for the first time in history, the greatest minds of the galaxy stepped aside, allowing a human and outcast to take control. Ethan worked faster than any of them had ever seen. His mind operated on a level that defied logic, assembling strategies and weapons in ways that should have been impossible. He spoke of concepts no one had ever considered, of physics that bent the rules of reality itself. His hands moved across holographic blueprints with terrifying speed, crafting technologies that would take normal scientists centuries to comprehend. In a matter of days, he transformed the Academy into something else entirely, a war machine unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But it wasn't just the technology that made Ethan different. It was the way he thought. He didn't fight like the Academy-trained generals. He didn't rely on the predictable, calculated tactics that alien civilizations had followed for millennia. He was chaotic, unpredictable, always 5 steps ahead. He set traps within traps, deceived the enemy before they even realized they were being played. He turned weaknesses into strengths, made impossibilities real. And when the final battle approached, when the galaxy braced itself for the last stand against the Void Tyrant's unstoppable fleet, there was one undeniable truth. Ethan Voss was not just a genius. He was something far more dangerous. And as he stood at the bridge of his ship, watching the stars shift around him, a quiet smile crossed his lips. The galaxy had once cast him aside. Now, it would watch as he rewrote its future. The Galactic Academy had seen many great minds walk through its grand halls, but none had ever been like Ethan Voss. Once a child prodigy, a boy who had shaken the very foundations of the universe's most advanced institution, he had been expelled, cast aside, and forgotten. 20 years had passed since that day, and most believed he had faded into obscurity. But when the galaxy found itself on the brink of destruction, whispers of his name returned. The Void Tyrant, an unstoppable warlord wielding technology beyond anything the Galactic Council could comprehend, was sweeping through star systems, leaving only ruin behind. No strategy, no weapon, no leader had been able to stop his advance. And just as hope seemed to slip away, a single message spread across the highest channels of the galactic network: Ethan Voss is returning. The news sent shockwaves through the Academy. Some doubted it was truly him. Others feared what it meant. But when a single ship appeared above the capital world of Zypharian Prime, all doubt vanished. The vessel was unlike anything ever seen before. It moved as if space itself bent around it, gliding effortlessly through the void with impossible precision. Its surface shimmered, absorbing and reflecting light in unnatural ways. The Galactic Council watched in silence as the ship descended toward the Academy's central plaza, landing without a sound. And then the ramp lowered. Ethan Voss stepped forward, no longer the 12-year-old boy they had expelled, but a man whose presence demanded attention. His gaze was sharp, his posture unshaken, his expression unreadable. He did not wear the robes of a scholar or the uniform of a soldier. He wore something new, something entirely his own, an armor woven from unknown materials, designed with purpose beyond what any of them could understand. He walked with the confidence of someone who had already won before the battle had even begun. And as he reached the steps of the Academy, the same professors who had once judged him now stood before him in silence, unsure whether to welcome him or beg for forgiveness. He wasted no time. "The Void Tyrant is using stolen knowledge," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Knowledge that originated from this academy. You trained him without realizing it. And now you cannot stop him." His words cut through them like a blade. The council, the same group that had once deemed him too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed among their ranks, now found themselves utterly powerless. They had spent years perfecting theories, developing strategies, and yet none of it mattered. Their enemy was always one step ahead, as if he knew their every move before they made it. And Ethan knew why. They hesitated, pride clashing with desperation, but the truth was undeniable. No one else could stop this war. "What do you propose?" one of the elder scholars finally asked. Ethan met their gaze without hesitation. Full control. No interference. No politics. No bureaucracy. "I do this my way, or you all lose." The demands sent murmurs through the hall. The council had never surrendered authority to an outsider, let alone a human, let alone someone they had once cast aside. But they had no choice. They granted him command. Ethan did not celebrate the victory. He got to work. Within hours, he had rewritten every major battle strategy the council had been using. He tore apart outdated defenses and rebuilt them from the ground up. He designed weapons beyond anything the Academy had ever imagined, technology that defied the limits of science as they understood it. His methods were unconventional, unpredictable, sometimes even reckless, but they worked. He thought in ways no one else could. He saw the battlefield as something alive, constantly shifting, always evolving. And as he prepared the final plan for the war's last battle, the rest of the galaxy watched in awe. The Void Tyrant was powerful, but he had never faced an enemy like Ethan Voss. Gravity fluctuated and wormholes formed unpredictably. Any normal strategist would have avoided such a battlefield, but Ethan saw it as an opportunity. He bent the chaos to his will, manipulating the environment, using the unpredictable nature of space itself as a weapon. As the enemy fleet approached, they believed they had the advantage. But one by one, their ships were cut off, isolated, torn apart by invisible forces Ethan had carefully set in motion. The Void Tyrant, realizing too late that he had walked into a trap, tried to retreat, but there was no escape. Ethan had already calculated his every possible move. He activated the final phase of his plan, a weapon of his own design, a reality-folding device that collapsed space around the enemy's strongest warships, rendering them defenseless. In mere moments, the fleet that had terrorized the galaxy was broken. And at the center of it all, standing calmly on the bridge of his ship, Ethan watched his plan unfold with absolute certainty. When the battle was over, the galaxy celebrated, but Ethan did not stay for the victory. The Galactic Council, now humbled, offered him the highest honors. They begged him to stay, to take his rightful place among them. But Ethan only smiled a quiet, knowing smile. "I didn't do this for the Academy," he said. "I did this because humanity never forgets." And with that, he turned away, stepping onto his ship without looking back. As he vanished into the stars, the galaxy was left with a single, undeniable truth. Ethan Voss was no longer just a former student of the Academy. He was something far greater. A legend. A force beyond their understanding. And though he had disappeared once more, one thing was certain: if the galaxy ever needed him again, he would return. The galaxy had never seen a battle like this before. For years, the Void Tyrant had seemed unstoppable, his fleet cutting through star systems like a blade through silk. His warships carried technology that outmatched even the most advanced civilizations. His soldiers moved with unnatural speed and precision. Every attempt to stop him had failed. Every strategy had crumbled before his overwhelming might. The Galactic Council had exhausted its resources, its greatest minds unable to find a solution. Then came Ethan Voss, the human prodigy who had once been expelled from the Academy, the outcast who had disappeared for 20 years, only to return with knowledge and power beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. And now, standing on the bridge of his warship, he prepared to deliver humanity's masterstroke. Ethan had not come to fight a conventional war. He knew that the Void Tyrant expected the same tired strategies, the same predictable formations that the Galactic Council had always relied on. But Ethan did not think like them. He had spent years studying not only the enemy, but the very nature of warfare itself. Where others saw battles as calculations, as numbers and probabilities, Ethan saw them as puzzles, complex, ever-shifting puzzles with infinite solutions. And he had found the perfect one. His fleet, smaller than the enemy's, was built differently. The ships moved with unpredictable speed, their hulls forged from a material the galaxy had never seen before. Their weapons were not conventional energy cannons or missile launchers, but something far more advanced technology Ethan had created in the shadows, waiting for the moment when the galaxy would need it the most. And that moment was now. The battlefield was chosen with precision. The void expanse, a chaotic sector of space where gravity fluctuated without warning, where time itself twisted unpredictably. No sane commander would fight a war here, but Ethan was not like other commanders. He had spent years mapping every distortion, every gravitational shift, every hidden anomaly. He had designed his fleet to thrive in this chaos, while the enemy, confident in its overwhelming power, had walked into a death trap without realizing it. As the Void Tyrant's fleet arrived, massive and unchallenged, Ethan remained calm. He gave no grand speech, issued no final warning. Instead, he spoke only 2 words to his fleet: begin now. In an instant, the battlefield ignited. But this was no ordinary battle. The enemy expected resistance, expected a desperate attempt to fight back against superior numbers. What they did not expect was disappearance. Ethan's ships did not engage in direct combat. They moved like ghosts, vanishing and reappearing in impossible places. They flickered in and out of existence, slipping through the unstable gravitational tides as if they were part of the expanse itself. Enemy warships fired blindly, their targeting systems useless against something they could not predict. Frustration turned into confusion. Confusion turned into panic. And then Ethan struck. With perfect timing, he unleashed the Singularity Disruptor, a weapon of his own design. It did not fire beams of energy or launch explosive warheads. Instead, it folded space, creating pockets of nothingness that swallowed enemy ships whole. One by one, the warlord's strongest battleships simply ceased to exist. The enemy tried to regroup, to understand what was happening, but there was no time. Ethan had already anticipated their reaction. He had planned for every possible move, and before they could even issue new orders, their own fleet turned against them. The most terrifying part of Ethan's plan was not the weaponry, not the impossible speed of his fleet, but the hacked warships. Long before the battle had begun, Ethan had infiltrated the enemy's systems, planting silent commands deep within their networks. And now, with a single activation, entire squadrons turned on their own allies, their targeting systems hijacked, their engines refusing to obey. Chaos spread like wildfire. The Void Tyrant, watching from his flagship, finally realized the truth: he had never been in control. Not of the battlefield. Not of his fleet. Not even of his own technology. Ethan had already won before the first shot had been fired. Desperate, the warlord attempted to escape. He activated his personal teleportation system, designed to tear open space and send him into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But even this, Ethan had predicted. The moment the Void Tyrant triggered the device, his ship was trapped, locked inside a spatial rift of Ethan's own making. There was no escape, no retreat. The warlord's final words were lost as his ship collapsed into the void, disappearing into nothingness. And just like that, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was gone. As silence fell over the battlefield, the Galactic Council watched in stunned disbelief. The war was over. The Void Tyrant's empire had crumbled in a matter of hours. And it had not been the combined forces of 100 civilizations that had saved them, it had been one human. A man they had once rejected, a mind they had once feared. Ethan Voss stood at the center of it all, calm and composed, as if the greatest victory in galactic history had been nothing more than another puzzle solved. The Council offered him power, titles, leadership over the entire galaxy. They begged him to stay, to take his rightful place as the savior of civilization. But Ethan only smiled. I didn't do this for the Academy. I didn't do this for the Council. I did this because humanity never forgets. And with that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the stars once more. The legend of Ethan Voss would be told for generations, a story of an outcast who returned not for revenge, not for recognition, but to remind the galaxy of one undeniable truth: humanity was not to be underestimated. The galaxy had forgotten his name, but his work had never been erased. Ethan Voss, the human genius who had once reshaped the fate of entire civilizations, had vanished decades ago, leaving behind only whispers of his brilliance. Some believed he had died in exile. Others thought he had gone beyond the edges of known space, searching for something greater. But what no one knew, what no one dared to believe, was that his legacy was not in his existence, but in the technology he left behind. It began with a simple anomaly. Deep within the research archives of the Galactic Academy, a group of scientists stumbled upon encrypted blueprints hidden within an abandoned data vault. The designs were unlike anything they had ever seen: machines that defied physics, weapons that could alter the very fabric of space, and theories so advanced that even the greatest minds of the current age struggled to comprehend them. The signature on the files was unmistakable: Ethan Voss. The realization sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If these blueprints were real, if they could be understood and replicated, then humanity had left behind something far more valuable than just history. It had left behind a future. The Galactic Council, wary of what they had discovered, formed a secret division to study the blueprints. But they soon realized that the designs were incomplete, fragmented, as if Ethan had left them unfinished on purpose. It was almost as if he had hidden the final pieces, waiting for the right mind to uncover them. And so, the search began. Across the galaxy, in forgotten outposts and lost colonies, they hunted for traces of his work. Every time they thought they had found the last piece, another mystery unfolded. It was a trail, a path Ethan had deliberately created, a test for those who would dare to follow in his footsteps. Among the seekers was Dr. Elara Mirren, a young scientist obsessed with the legend of Ethan Voss. Unlike the others, she didn't just want to find his work, she wanted to understand him. Why had he left? Why had he hidden his greatest discoveries? And most importantly, why had he chosen to make his knowledge so difficult to find? As she followed his trail, she uncovered a pattern. Ethan's clues were leading towards something far greater than just technology. He had not simply been creating weapons or machines, he'd been building something alive. Then came the breakthrough. In an ancient, abandoned research station orbiting a dying star, she found it. The core. A device unlike anything ever seen before, pulsing with energy, surrounded by intricate symbols that seemed to shift and change as if reacting to her presence. It was not just a machine. It was a mind. Ethan had built an artificial intelligence, not one that mimicked thought. It spoke to her in a voice that sent chills through her spine, calm and precise. You have come far. But understanding is not enough. Do you seek knowledge or do you seek power? Elara hesitated. She had spent years searching, chasing the legacy of a man who had disappeared before she was even born. And now, faced with the culmination of his work, she realized the truth. Ethan had never been hiding from the galaxy. He had been protecting it. His creations were not meant to be weapons, nor tools for conquest. They were meant to push the boundaries of what was possible, but only for those who were ready. If placed in the wrong hands, the core's knowledge could reshape the galaxy in ways no one could predict. As she reached out, the core revealed its final secret, a message left by Ethan himself. A holographic figure appeared before her, older than the records had shown, his expression unreadable. Knowledge without wisdom is destruction, his voice echoed. If you are seeing this, it means you have followed my path. But I ask you now, will you finish what I started, or will you walk away? Elara closed her eyes. She had chased the legacy of a human genius, but now the decision was hers. The knowledge was here, waiting. But the question remained, was the galaxy ready for it? Or was some knowledge better left untouched? The core pulsed again, waiting for her answer.